Well, life is a journey, just like the women on these Vespas or motor scooters here. They're ready to take off on life. Anyway, I want to put out a little bit of a different twist on here because I know amongst the Silver Crowd channel, a lot of times people have been talking about Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton a lot and blah, 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 and is she sick? And anyway, that's a separate subject. But, the cliche that even came from Ronald Reagan, make America great again, that's where Donald Trump got it from. It's not going to happen unless we turn back to God. You can't do it off of just numbers, statistics, even productivity and all that. You got to turn back to God. I just can't say this enough, and I also don't want to say it in the, I don't know, like these phony religious people. Like I'm not really religious at all, if you probably watch my channel. But there's core things I do know that are the absolute truth. And I'm going to get on with a couple of these things because there's a lot of stuff that's dovetailing into a situation that's coming up on us fairly soon that, we've been talking about this doom and gloom crap, or people have been. I don't really, well, I hate to even think this crap, to tell you the truth. I don't even want to put this out here exactly, but, the situation is that we are probably coming up to an era that is going to be totally different over all the known history of mankind. Does that sound, I don't want to put this out for attention. I'm not telling you for attention. I'm not putting this out because I believe this doom and gloom crap. Well, first off, the obvious factor is that we know that the United States is the greatest debtor nation on this earth. We never had this crazy experiment where everybody's in debt and they got all this fiat money going on. We never had a population explosion like we have on this earth. I'm not showing a chart here on that. We need to really go back to basics. We come from the sea, for crying out loud, We need to come back to air, sunlight, and basic health. Get rid of all this materialistic bullshit that's going on. Probably the ways of the American Indians are probably more correct than even the formal religions that we have out here. And once every 7,000 years, there's an alignment of the planets. And I don't want to get into details on this. You could probably look this up on the web, but it's all coming about on September 23rd, 2017. Now, I also want to call attention to September of October has always been a time where we've had problems in the markets. Now, we might have something happening even this year, but there's a couple things I'm thinking about. September 2017, okay, that's one thing. That's a once in 7,000 years special alignment that's actually referred to in the Book of Revelations. If you read the Book of Revelations as an astrological thing, I'm not going to get into the detail on this because it takes too long. But additionally, October 13th, 1917, was the miracle of the sun at Fatima, Portugal, when Mary gave its message to the children that if mankind doesn't keep sinning, there would be World War II. She gave these sign that World War II was going to come about, an unknown light. That was the Borealis, Aurealis, I forget how you say that. And it did happen, I think, in 1938. You were able to read a newspaper in New York or Australia from the light from at nighttime from this unknown strong Borealis, Aurealis. I know I'm saying that incorrectly. Just doing this from rote memory. But on October 13th, 2017, is going to be the 100-year anniversary of Fatima. Now, there's other analysis out there that went into what they're talking about, the days of the tribulation and the God's wrath days, all occurring between 2017 and 2024. Now, I also want to call attention to a site out there, Deagle.com, D-E-A-G-E-L-E, G-E-L, not G-L-G-L-E, it's D-E-A-G-E-L.com. Look up the United States population forecast for 2025. They always forecast in 10-year periods, forecasts for nations. And they got the United States population dropping by 80%, down to 64.9 million from over 315 million. To drop down to 64.9 million by 2025. Now, this is all coinciding with a couple other things. what people are forecasting in the book of Revelations, also the 100-year anniversary of Fatima. Now, I put out a video about, I can tell you right now, YouTube is not very, receptive of videos that I put out on anything of this type. Now, they might be okay on this because I'm more supposedly I'm a silver channel, although I'm an everything channel. But I put a video out about Putin's accident, almost near accident with a Mercedes that swerved into his car. I personally think that was a hit, but that bodes bad news for the future because it probably puts Putin a little more on a hair trigger that he's not going to put up with any kind of crap. One of the biggest messages of Fatima is that if mankind doesn't keep sinning against the Lord, which you can see a lot of things done today are extremely offensive to the Lord, is that mankind would be chastised by Russia specifically for mankind's sins, that Russia would be the instrument whereby mankind would be chastised by God for its sins. So Make America Great is not going to work from just Trump. It's not going to just work from the power of the gun. Now, you do need a gun. You do need the instruments to do the work that you need to do to protect yourself. But you need the Lord too. You need the God on your side. You need righteousness on your side. You could breathe life into every round you pull that trigger on. Ha ha. Now, I'm going to tell you that I think when the collapse comes, fiat currencies are going to be next to worthless. Now, silver is not going to be the only thing that's going to protect you. Yeah, it's food, firepower, beans, bacon, bullets, shelter, fuel, that type of stuff. But it's also your spiritual strength. It's going to have to come from, not just from you, but also from the outside, where you got to seek God. I'm not a religious channel. You know this, right? I mean, people listen to me a while. I'm not a religious channel. I'm not a 501c Bible thumper yo-yo, which those people make me want to puke. But I can tell you the truth is, you actually have to have this inner strength that you get from outside of you. And if people don't turn back to God, guess what? America is not going to be great again, no matter who you elect. I don't care if there's 25 Trumps up there in the White House, in the cabinet, and all this other stuff. It's not going to work out. I mean, maybe that'll help somewhat, but maybe he's got the Spirit of God in him too. I don't know. But you can't freaking fix things just by the works of man. That's never been that case. It's never been the case ever. And, it's like this. Chapter 1. If it's important enough to you, you will find a way. If it's not, you'll find an excuse. The problem is most people find an excuse. Now, as far as what's going on with the markets in silver, let me just tell you this. There's been a major crash over in the Japanese markets. Now it's affecting the U.S. markets. I noticed that. Commodity prices have been affected too, because usually when the markets come down, commodity prices come down, especially like palladium and platinum. Also want to tell you that I think tensions with Russia are going to escalate vastly. I don't care who's in office. Well, they would definitely with Hillary Clinton, but they're going to vastly escalate. And that is really what's going to cause palladium to go up, because the one major producer of palladium in the Western Hemisphere, which was North American Palladium, stock ticker PAL, they went under completely due to mismanagement. So that means a lot more of the palladium now comes from Russia, which is 43% of the entire world supply, 39% coming from Norals, and a lot of the rest of it coming from South Africa, which is politically unstable. I want to remind people about palladium. It's all over the place. I know. You got to actually. I think it's going to go way over the price of gold, but I'm not going to wait for that. I'm actually going to dump some of it when it goes over $1,000 an ounce and buy land up in the Smoky Mountains in Tennessee. And I'll still have some palladium left, of course, and I'll still have all my silver and gold and platinum. So, I'm going to do that. And you know, I'm not going to wait for the absolute height because I'm looking for survival. I'm not sure about the flatlands of, even though I'm in the hills of Florida, they're not much of hills. I don't think this area is going to survive very well in a tribulation time. I am going to actually try to survive it, but I do realize you have to have faith in the Lord. You have to have faith in the Lord. You have to pray. And as I'm Catholic, the one only thing I believe in Catholic other than that fraud Pope is the Rosary. I know to pray the Rosary is correct. Now, we've built cities and monuments basically to man ourselves. We have built cities and monuments to show we're great. In other words, even these financial channels are out there talking about silver. It's all about how great we are, how much money you're going to make. Well, I also think silver is very important for just the medicinal purposes too. And considering that nobody, most people, virtually nobody has silver, even 1 ounce. Even if you saw, if it became to the point of basic survival, and the word got out that colloidal silver and ionic silver can help heal the body and thwart microbes and work biologically, the value of it would go up exponentially. I don't know what it would be in dollars, but it might be worth, 1 ounce of silver might be worth, 10 bushels of wheat or something, or 100 pounds of freaking meat or something. I don't know. But that's the way I would look at it. Maybe it won't be valued so much in ounces. Because I think when the tribulation comes, it is coming. I mean, it doesn't seem logical right now because it's been told so many times. I mean, there's people back in the 1800s. Um, I think they later become the Seventh Day Adventist. That talked about the end times coming, and of course you had who the hell was that guy? I forgot what it was. The old geezer with the 20 somebody, I think he has $74 million or whatever it was. He was predicting the end of the earth in 2015 in May, and he was wrong. Camper, whatever his name was. If I'm not saying it right. I'm just doing this off of memory. I'm not playing that game. I'm not getting rich telling you this kind of garbage. I'm not. I'm telling you, I think it's a fact because I know I saw the biblical analysis. I just want to show that really briefly with the Revelations. Um, but it's also what I see is what I really put the most importance on is the message of Fatima. What I could see is coming up with Russia. Russia's being deliberately antagonized to try to start something. I don't know why they're doing this, but maybe the elite in this country want the population reduced. So you're really probably going to have to really what a reality situation is. Silver, you might want to look at it almost as for medicinal purposes, and that's where the value is going to go up drastically because it works against every microbe there is on a planet. I mean, maybe it doesn't work that way in the body perfectly, but if you can um, make silver vapor in the air and you breathe it in, you have lung infections, it'll get rid of that type of stuff. If you have silver, colloidal ionic silver on gauze pads or bandages, it'll stop infection cold. It actually creates stem cells right at the location to promote healing. A lot of people don't know that. Now, that's why it's probably going to be worth a ridiculous amount of money, probably more so than gold, because gold doesn't do this type of thing. When you're talking about practicality, silver is on the top of the list all the way, and there's no doubt about it. Um, but we're probably going back to a time when we might just be using horses again for crying out loud. I don't even know. I mean, that's really where it's going to be coming at. Hopefully, the old iron horses will still be around. You probably have to make a wicker basket for your freaking sidecar because the materials are going to be materials are going to be freaking rare. Now, one of the things I noticed though on the major media, of course you noticed it, we all noticed it. Boy, are they freaking the biggest bunch of disinformation liar bastards going? Um, it's almost like this. I actually have this out on an older video where I talked about the spot price of oil, the spot price of all the commodities are being rigged, and there's been lawsuits ongoing about the spot price of oil, and all commodities since 2000, even by the former head of the NYMEX. The whole game is totally rigged. But I think New York City is going to be one of the main targets of World War III. And That's the financial hub. So all these numbers aren't going to mean anything. So in a practical world, I mean, of all the metals I could think of that's the most worth per ounce, it is definitely silver due to the medicinal benefits and the antibacterial, antimicrobial benefits, and the ability to help the body generate stem cells, which means true healing, true regeneration. Copper, yeah, that's another one too. But we're coming up to a time where it's going to be like the long winter, something like when you're talking about the tribulation, the great wrath of God. It's going to be like the long winter. It's going to last a long time. We're going to go through tumultuous times, and then the death toll is going to come about. But I don't think it's going to come about for people that believe in God and actually are prepared. Now, I know you're supposed to religiously not worry about your own body and just think about what you're doing on this earth for the afterlife and prepare yourself for the afterlife. But honestly, I think people could probably live ridiculously number of centuries in this body if we unlock the secrets. And if does God want to give us those secrets? Maybe He will. Actually, on this channel, I've been alluding to some of these secrets that I've been coming across piecemeal on different things, where we could protect the telomeres and our DNA and structure, where we could just go on forever. As a matter of fact, many of the elite in this country, especially the tech elite, think they can live virtually forever. And it's not just with nutrition. It's actually with special high-tech frequencies, which I allude to on this channel. And actually, fortunately, YouTube doesn't seem to give me a problem with those type of videos. They seem to give me a problem with, I don't know, if I say something, I don't know what. If I say something against, I don't know what, man, these guys are getting a little stupid. Recently, they've been getting really bad, and I've been complaining about it more because I didn't think YouTube was that bad maybe less than a year ago, but in recent months, they've gotten really ridiculous on what you could say. And I'm like, this is getting crazy. This is getting crazy. Um, but, when we're traveling down this road through the tribulation into God's wrath, I don't want people like just think like, oh, the end is near, just die, and fucking curl up in a ball and you're dead. Get out of here, man. I ain't doing that shit. I know some people are halfway suicidal when everything's freaking great, and I don't get them. I'm not like that in the least, man. I mean, actually, if I get to the point where I think things are going bad, I realize it's because somebody's making it bad for me. And I think about getting back at the bastards. I don't think about, it's my fault for crying out loud. You know what I'm saying? That's the way I think. It's not just a positive attitude, but it's also an attitude that I have an eye out for protecting my own interest in myself. But the situation has gone to this like ludicrous, actually, even on the major media. Like, Obama, they say the major media is saying Obama is like riding high on super high popularity right now, the highest popularity he's ever had. I'm like, yeah, right, bullshit. I had to throw that in there because um, the major media is telling you everything's great and grand. Everything's great going on in the United States. We got, everything's, the Internet of Things is coming up. We got cloud technology coming up. How people can start with $200 and make millions of dollars. They're always throwing these get-rich stories on the Internet. Actually, it's just to give people hope. It's bullshit. And for the most part, everything's going down. Now, it's not going down for the entire population. In other words, when most of the population isn't making money, there's a few percentage people on the top, or basically 1 basis point, 1% of 1%, especially, that are making gobs more money. They're sucking you dry. But I can tell you that the thing is, the reality situation is, they're going to get caught up in the abyss faster than the average person. The problem is with the elite, or if we call them that, the people that pull the strings, they're just sitting on a very precarious precipice whereby, everything's dependent upon, the structures of communication and technology and, the financial system itself, which can be wiped out very quickly in the event of even a just a couple nuclear aerial bursts that doesn't even kill anybody, but just causes an EMP. Which that's to me. I think the power. I think they all notice. They all notice our actual infrastructure and grid system is so fragile that it wouldn't take much to bring the whole damn thing down. With that, there goes the elite. I mean, yeah, maybe they got underground shelters and all this kind of garbage, but the problem is they never get everything right. Because I always told you about the Big BB. I said this before. I actually put a video out it specifically on Hillary Clinton and the Big BB, the big bucks bullshit. The elite gets surrounded by garbage themselves that are seeking favor for big dollars. And these people will stab them in back in turn, no problem. How many times has this happened to Roman emperors? Most of them died violent deaths. After the Roman Republic fell, when Julius Caesar crossed the Rubicon, yeah, it was okay for a long time under Caius Octavius Augustus. But then, later on, things started to unravel. Actually, in the year 70 AD, 69, 70 AD, which was the time the Second Temple was destroyed by the Jews. Actually, that actually came back on the Romans. That was a time of tribulation for the Romans. It was the year of the four emperors: Galba, Otho, Vitellius, and then Vespasian. Now, that's not to say that all religion is wrong. It's not. Even amongst the Catholic Church. Actually, the Catholic Church probably is the only true church going. Problem is, our Pope is definitely not. That guy is the biggest fraud going. But amongst those priests that are still out there, that are true ones, that are blessing motorcycles and motorcycle riders, I think there's still some righteous ones out there that are carrying on the spirit of the true church. But we're going through a time of massive tribulation. So, it's in the message of Fatima. It's in Revelations. It's also in just a plain. It's actually not a conspiracy site. It's a non-profit military site called Deagle.com, DEAGEL.com. You can look at it, what they're forecasting. USA is getting wiped. I mean, also Western Europe, also Japan, all the nations that are basically heavy in debt. Russia's going to probably be doing fairly well because and so is China. China's going to do fine. Actually, I should say a little bit about China in this video, because if I put on a separate video, YouTube will freaking go ballistic. China actually is a great nation. It has probably some of the best culture. I mean, I don't know. I've never been to China. The only experience I have with China is from Okinawa, Japan, which has a lot of Chinese culture mixed in it, because that island is actually far more influenced by China than Japan, even though it's owned by mainland Japan. But I could tell you that the elite in China are actually a product of the Western elite. When we talk about communist China, it all came from the West. That didn't come about from an outgrowth of the Chinese population. That's why when they had the revolt at Tiananmen Square, the West did nothing to help them. They did nothing. They were expecting help, but they didn't get help. The reality situation is the West is completely complicit in pretty much all the totalitarian regimes and it's not the West, us the people, but our Western leaders. And where are they tied to, and where are they all connected with? Basically, the banking system. I mentioned this before. The financial industry is the sinews of the devil that's in the United States. And silver is going to pretty much bring it down. Maybe not in a way you might expect. Silver is going to probably have a lot of worth in relation to other goods when things really collapse, because it's not just thinking of it as a monetary value, but also mainly think of it as medicinal value. I mean, copper's not going to do medicinally what silver's going to do. Gold is certainly not going to. Neither is platinum nor palladium. Only silver is a thing that helps the body produce stem cells, which is ionic silver, not colloidal silver, produces stem cells. And colloidal and ionic silver both combat microbes. That could be very, very, very important in a collapsed society, which will not be collapsed. It'll be, if the United States before there was monies, before there was land ownership, before there was all this micromanagement of all our resources, there were the ways of the American Indian. And the United States was teeming with a population that was bigger than that of Europe before the white man came here. Now, the white man did not actually kill the American Indian with guns and bullets. I know they did also, but they mainly killed them with disease, bubonic plague, yellow fever, measles, and things like that that they were carrying within their systems. If the American Indians had access to some of they have a lot of herbs, and I do know they have a lot of secrets, but they had access to the purification methods of silver, probably far more of them would have survived, and we'd probably be live in a much different culture today because we would have not succeeded against winning against 80 million American native peoples in this country. But say, everything supposedly collapses in a normal way that we think of society today. It's just going to go back to a different way. That's all. People are just going to survive, no problem. It's not going to be the end of the world. And, hopefully some of this technology will continue on. But I just want to put this out because I think that we are actually very close to a great tribulation. Now, unfortunately, when this tribulation comes about, I don't think there's going to be YouTube. I mean, it's going to be knocked out communications, knocked out infrastructure, in the whole 9 yards. Maybe it'll be a short wave. And you know what? Before this comes about, I'm going to be ready with short wave because I was talking about going on another venue besides YouTube to put some of the more politically incorrect stuff out there. But I also realize all internet communications are going to be subject to problems if we're really going into, I'm talking serious crap here. I'm not talking about the garbage is some suit and tie that's 18 years old that gets on here and tells you all the stuff he knows about finance and how you're going to get rich. And you're just going to sit back and buy yourself a mansion with a built-in swimming pool and fill it with champagne and a bevy of honeys and just, women, and you live happily ever after. It's not going to be like that. But it doesn't mean you're not going to be unhappy. You're going to be unhappy or you're not going to love life. It doesn't mean that at all. Our American tribal ancestors loved life. I mean, I'm not tribally related to them in any way, but I believe in their cause. So let me just put it to you out to this way. The end is not here in the way that people think, but I'm serious about this stuff because I think this is going to be coming up after. They're going to keep things looking pretty good as much as possible between now and the election because they're trying to push for the wildebeest. But things are going to start unraveling. I think Trump's going to make it. But he's not going to be able to make America great. It could happen if everybody turns back to God. But that obviously is not going to happen. I can tell you that right now. That is obviously, definitely not going to happen. Because I'll read from you again, chapter 1. If it's important enough for you to find a way, you'll find a way. If it's important enough for you. If it's not, you'll find an excuse. And the vast majority of people in the United States look for the excuse. There's always a reason not to turn back to God. And I'm not a Bible thumper, as you well know on this channel. I am far from a Bible thumper. And I don't like Bible thumpers because I know you can't force morality. You can't legislate morality. And everybody's a sinner. I mean, for crying out loud. I'm not going to tell you how to live your life. We all pretty much know the truth. And, but most people look for an excuse. That's what happens. But what's going on today, if you look back the way this country was in the 1700s, 1800s, and even the 1600s, far different. Even from 1960 prior, far different. Far different. We had major social upheaval in the 60s, and it's been getting worse and worse since that time. And that's a relatively short period of time. We've also had a population explosion even since the 60s. I don't know when we could take the double point from, but it's probably been in the last 50 years. It doubled again. The Earth's not going to be able to support this kind of population. It's not just a matter of it could if you turn back to God, easily, easily. There's plenty of arid, agricultural available land. There's plenty of methods to increase productivity. And also, I went on to secrets about how to turn genetically modified seeds back into non-genetically modified using energies. I think the true Lukovsky coil would actually do that. I did that on other videos. Um, I just wanted people to know that most of the time, actually, with everybody, and actually Winston Churchill said this himself. He says once or twice a man or a woman will stumble upon the truth. He'll fall down. He'll just trip right over the truth, and he'll fall down. Instead of looking at the truth and picking up the truth and discovering what the truth is about, they'll quickly get up, dust themselves off, and run in the other direction. And that's pretty much our hurried society. That's just the way things are. We're actually going in the wrong direction. Probably the ways of the American Indian or the American Native peoples from way back is the way things are going to be. Um, Now, as far as the price of silver, let me just tell you this because I know maybe people probably wondering, what did I tell you? What did I tell you anything financial here? I think it's going to start heating up at the end of the year. Typically in December, oil heats up, and that's also when you see the metals heat up. I think Trump is actually going to be good for silver. You know why? I've been long on this, but I have to be long. I'm sorry. You know why? Um, he's probably going to cause interest rates to raise higher, which is actually going to cause the dollar to run into problems and the government to start defaulting on some of the debt or actually having to shut down some of its areas. And it's going to create lack of faith in the dollar. In other words, interest rates are going to start creeping up after this election sometime. And when that happens, I know normally you would think interest rates going up means the metals go down and gold goes down. But it's going to be interest rates going up because the dollar is that risky of an investment. And there's no other safe havens. In other words, the safe havens are the equities, which are freaking, the previous safe havens were. In other words, where would you run to? What areas could you run to as a possible safe haven? Equities, PE ratios are vastly skewed. They can't, equities are way overpriced. You're not going to go into that. Um, the dollar itself has been riding high for a long period of time. The index is 95, 96. We used to think when it was over 80, it was riding strong. It's going to start coming down. They're going to try to make investing in U.S. Treasury bonds more attractive by raising interest rates. They're going to have to go up. The market's going to demand that. But that does not mean it's going to be one time that interest rates are going to go up and the dollar is going to be less attractive, because we are the biggest debtor nation on this earth. Now, combine that with one terrorist attack in this nation, and that is just going to be the straw that's going to break the camel's back. You're going to see everything just start falling apart really rapidly. And it's going to lead from one thing to another, to another, to another. In other words, the people don't turn back to God. The people don't have their inner strength. Without their inner strength, they can't really rebuild. You're not just going to be able to elect a leader and say, make America great and everything's going to be fine. It's not going to happen that way. No way. Even though I could say, yeah, I hope Trump wins, it's not going to matter. It's not going to matter. And this is not something where I'm telling you, it's going to be the end for the freaking people that are superfluous. The poke man yo-yos out there, the people. It's actually, even YouTube itself is kind of a reflection of society. You look at YouTube, 99% of it, or not maybe 99% of it, well over probably 90% of it, view-wise, is, superfluous garbage. Giddy rumors, and not just giddy rumors, but just superfluous garbage. 10 biggest fails, 10 stupidest things news people said, um, bloopers and all this kind of garbage. It's stupid garbage. It's the superfluous shit. That's really what the hell it is. That's a reflection of our society. Although YouTube does have a lot of great information on it, on how to do things and how to learn things. Because if you just want to learn any kind of subject you want, whether it's working on cars, growing food, sewing clothes, making pottery from scratch, painting, artwork, building, tables and route with a router, and making fancy woodwork. It's all there. It's all there on YouTube, but that's not the majority of it. No way in hell. YouTube actually is a reflection of our society, which has actually gotten so corrupt it's beyond belief. So, I can't really blame YouTube for that per se, but it's just an indication of why we're going to go down. We got all the tools at our disposal, but the reality of the situation, we got to get our inner strength from an outside source, which is God, which means we have to turn back to God, and we're not going to do that. The nation, obviously, as a whole, is not doing that. That is why the tribulation and the wrath of God is going to come about on us, and several things. It's in the book of Revelations astrologically. It's also in the feast of, the miracle of Fatima, and also the feast of Fatima, the feast of Immaculate Conception. But something else. But the thing is, it's also in the miracle of Fatima's message from October 13th, 1917, 100-year anniversary. It's coming up in 2017. It's also, some of the forecasts from the day, the year to Shemitah, the cycles of, depressions and wrath of God. And also on that military forecasting site, which is a non-profit site, Deagle.com, DEAGEL.com, about the United States population being reduced by 80% by the year 2025. Keep silver, because silver is going to have vast worth because of the medicinal values alone. Once people really understand what it can do medicinally, help produce stem cells through ionic silver, and also fight off and thwart any kind of microbes, that alone is going to be worth a lot in a world whereby there's not going to be much medical availability for the average person. So silver is going to be extremely important and extremely tradable. But until such time, when the sinews of the evil financial empire are still alive, do not count on silver to go up to some astronomical height. And that is why I probably will be dumping the palladium, or part of the palladium, when it goes over $1,000 an ounce. And I think it will, because of tensions with Russia. And buy land up in the mountains of Tennessee near the North Carolina border. And, that might be my best safe haven that I know of. Although, faith in God and getting inner strength from God is actually to be my number one thing that will save me. And I do recognize that.